What's up, everyone? All right, so I'm gonna start working on these videos where I discuss not so much tuning, but more about builds, because that's where it starts and the cause and effect of that uh, when it gets to the tuning side of things. So the first kind of the video that I want to start out with is I'm gonna try and separate them based on, I guess you would call, systems. And I'm going to be pretty blunt about my opinion. And of course, it's my opinion. I'm not going to really get into any arguments with people about it because everybody has their own opinion. But we'll talk about camshafts today. There was some chatter about camshafts and testing them and whatnot. I'm not here to specifically talk about that, but while it's good information, I think the general point of the post was that a custom camshaft is not required for everyone, right? You'll get on the Facebooks and the Instagrams, and you'll see people talking about like, oh, you need a custom cam. Don't do that cam. You need a custom cam. I've said it for a long time. The custom cams, there's only so many things that you can do with a camshaft in the limited amount of space with a stock bottom end. And then also with a built bottom end, it opens up a little bit more, but even then it opens up a little bit more. It's not like you have this wide range of things you can change. I am not a cam expert by any means, and I will never claim that I am, but I have a good idea about what things can be done. That being said, in my opinion, 99.9% of people do not even need a camshaft. Okay? When you are changing a camshaft, and let's say the reason is for MDS or DOD removal, because that system can be very painstaking to drive, and also it diminishes over time. So the drivability aspect of it gets worse and worse as the mileage increases. First question you need to ask yourself is, how am I driving my vehicle? What am I using my vehicle for? Right? If you're street driving it, daily driving it, it hauls your truck and it hauls your trailer, whatever it may be, stock. Don't go through a performance camshaft, because there are things that need to be done for a performance camshaft. For one, tuning's more expensive. Hey, I tune cars all the time. I'm shooting myself in the foot maybe, but in my opinion, if you do not know everything about the upsides and downsides to changing a camshaft, then you should not. All right. Now, the shops can educate their customers for sure on, hey, if we change to this camshaft, let's say a max effort camshaft, these are the quirks of a camshaft. Now, I've been tuning for 10 years, and I can tell you right now, there is literally always going to be something that the customer is going to say, hey, is this normal? And you have to explain to them those things. Instead of just saying, yeah, it's normal, I go in depth of why is it normal? What is happening? So let's just say, for instance, one of them, hey, it smells rich at idle. It's not. I can do another video about talking about whether things are rich or lean, but in these modern vehicles, we have oxygen sensors, narrowband oxygen sensors, that keep them at a air fuel mixture, is what we call stoic, and it's to attempt to make it complete combustion. All right. When you have a camshaft, and let's say you have a max effort camshaft, it's got way more overlap than stock. Well, what is overlap? Overlap is the amount of time that the intake valve is opening due to the camshaft design, as it's open at the same time that the exhaust valve is open. So for a camshaft and for performance, there's benefits to this because it allows more air to get drawn in as the exhaust is exhausting. It creates a low pressure in the cylinder and it draws more in. So more air means more power, right? In theory, yes. The downside to that is when you're at idle, your choppiness, your lopiness is that's happening at idle. All right. So at intake valve opening and exhaust valve open at the same time, what's happening? Fuel's getting injected and it's going right out into the exhaust. All right. So yes, there is what you would call raw unburnt fuel in the exhaust. Now it's not like gushing fuel into the exhaust. Remember, it's vaporized, so it doesn't just start leaking out the tailpipe or anything like that, but it is in the exhaust, so you are smelling the unburnt fuel. It can be idling. The oxygen sensors can only do what they can do, and it can be idling at perfect, what the oxygen sensors call stoic, but you'll still get that smell. The other thing would be that with a larger camshaft, the point of a larger camshaft is to move power band. All right. And when you move it with a larger camshaft, you're moving it up. A common sales tactic, if you will this cam work with a stock torque converter? Yes, it will. Absolutely. Why wouldn't it? Is it going to perform with a stock converter? No, it is not. Because I'll try to insert a picture here of a dyno pull where we started at 2500 with a max effort cam. And you can see a section of just low torque, low power, and then all of a sudden it ramps up. And that is just, it kind of gives you the idea of where the torque converter needs to be spec'd. So it needs to be like a 3200 stall or a 3800 stall in order to kind of like shoot past that, dogginess. Not only is the stall going to help with that, it's going to put you in the peak power band of the camshaft, but it also reduces the chug at like a stop sign or a light or something like that. And chug is not a surge. A surge has everything to do with tuning. The idle and just chugging back and forth at a light and the shaking of the car, it gets better with a higher stall because it's basically slipping and it's not transitioning that power to your drive line. If you think about it, when you have an aftermarket camshaft, your idle is raised, so it eats up some of that stall. Idle is at 850, where it used to be at 550 or 600. Well, you just ate up 250 RPM worth of that converter of slipping. So it's meshing together more, if you will, and it's transferring that into the drive line. But when you go to the track, it's going to underperform because you're going to have a dead spot. It just feels like a pooch out the hole. But it made 500 horsepower, right? Oh, it just goes to show you that the power numbers really don't mean anything, especially peak power. You have to think about peak power as happening at peak RPM and how long are you there, right? You're there for a split second. Most of your acceleration is going to be based on the meat and potatoes of your torque curve, which is usually right around 3,200 to about 4,800, 5,200 RPM. All right. And if you have a cam that's so huge that it can't even make torque there, it's going to make torque even higher, then that should not be in your street car. Like that should not be in a car that you're going to daily drive to the coffee shop or you're driving to work, because you're just not going to be happy with it, period. Now, I know there is going to be someone out there that is 1000% going to be like, oh, I'm perfectly fine with that. And then, hey, to each his own. But I will say the masses are not going to be happy with the way that drives. So following up with a previous video that I did about trucks, and that everybody skips over the tuning process and goes straight to a camshaft because they're having a lifter failure. They skip over tuning for one, and they skip over the stock cam with tuning. I can't tell you how many times that I have tuned someone's stock vehicle, especially a truck, and they're just like, this is a night and day difference. I did not think that this could be like this, right? Now, in the grand scheme of things, we're not making very much more power, but we are able to tune in and remove some like torque limits, holding it back. Things are mainly, like a truck especially, is more geared towards just driving around and hauling stuff. It's not really meant for like performance. Like that's not what the factory was intending their calibrations to be, right? So when we can go in there and someone like myself can make performance changes, it really wakes them up. So my 2 cents is 99.9% of people, you don't even need a camshaft. All right. Stop going into the pitfalls of getting talked into a camshaft that's way larger than you really need it to be for what you're actually using your vehicle for. And you know, you got to lose grip of the internet and trying to look cool on the internet with your camshaft, because you have to deal with it every day, right? My opinion, I think the camshaft stuff is getting a little out of hand. I think we skip over the basics before we get into, performance modifications. That's my 2 cents on that.